Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Welcome to this week's Friday Fix, where the podcast where myself, Ryan from PIQ, and of course Alex and Jesse from the awesome. Are we talking about Alpha Pix or is it AP Research? What are
We slightly rebranded at the start of the year. So technically AP Research, but the AP is obviously the Alpha Pick. So it's one of those ones where it's like formally known as.
Yeah, well, at least you haven't just removed all the vowels like Aberdeen. But anyway, the amazing guys from AP Research. Again, if you don't already follow them on social, and especially their substacks, etc., do so. Very, very candid market-related podcast where we just talk about themes of the week and have a little bit of discussion, what's been going on, what's important, what's not important. Hopefully put a smile on your face and a bit of value into your day. As always, nothing discussed on the podcast is trading or investment advice, all that jazz. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, back this time last week, I was enjoying the slopes in true European style. Now, this week has been firmly not leaving the desk for any period of the day or night.
Oh, well, to be honest, you do love holidays, so there's no sympathy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a misconception that's spawned its own life. But 28 days, that's the holiday allowed. Anyway, there's a lot to talk about this week. Obviously, we'll talk a bit about the situation in the Middle East, but also, given everyone's heard a lot about the Middle East, looking at a few of the stories that have sort of snuck under the radar a little bit.
Do you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that because I keep saying to people, there's been some pretty big stories and pretty big headlines this week that any other week, any normal week, would be like the biggest story of the week. For instance, just in case, sorry to, maybe I'm trampling on your toes a bit, but just, a few things that spring to mind. Like Volkswagen have just announced they're going to lay off 50,000 workers in Germany in the next 4 years. Now, if that would happen, if we got that news in November, that would be massive, and like hardly anyone knows about it.
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, I agree. There was the other. Oh dear, I should know this one. I can find out. There was another one that announced large layoffs. A US company. It was driven by AI. Oh, it was Atlassian. Yes, and they're cutting. I think they're cutting 40% of their workforce. And the guys, like similar to that Jack Dorsey style tweet, which is they're like, yeah, sorry guys, AI efficiencies we're on it, and we're laying off a significant amount of their workforce. Which again, that in itself, I think would have been front and center
because it's one of the first major announcements like that regarding a fear that a lot of people have been having for quite some time, right?
Yeah. But I mean, look, the stories are where the stories are. And I mean, the thing is, because I don't want to regurgitate too much stuff, because I know you yourself and Michael have covered it on the Morning Blast very well. I think in terms of like opinion pieces rather than regurgitating the facts on the situation in the Middle East, the thing certainly that's caught my eye, particularly over the past 48 hours, is actually how much of the conflict is actually becoming centered around oil and energy prices, which I thought the best example of that was obviously the 30-day waiver that the US had just given to sanction Russian oil.
Yeah, just be clear on that for anyone wondering, for more details. Like it's currently, and again, this might change by the time I even publish the podcast, let alone anything else. But at the moment, that is a 30-day waiver on Russian oil that's currently on the water. So basically, Russian oil that's already in tankers that's just floating around and got nowhere to go because then no one can buy it. What they're saying is we can free up that. So basically, think of it as like just unleashing the Russian floating storage is the best way to kind of conceptualize it.
Yeah.
But that's a very good, that's a gateway drug to just unsanctioning all of Russian oil, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's like I mean, to me, like the optics of doing something like that are pretty bad from anyone who's not a Russian ally. And so, I think that to me was one of the main indications that the US and global participants are very concerned about. The conflict, sure, but actually we're being held to ransom a little bit from the Strait of Hummus, your favourite place.
When you say that, I will never not laugh.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to drop it. Unfortunately, I'm going to say it in a serious situation at some point, which is going to get me.
Or even worse, you'll be typing it up on one of your research pieces and just mentally type hummus and then
hummus. And the thing is, from the Supreme Leader's written speech that was put out yesterday, he basically flagged that he's happy to weaponize that strait to the ends, and to some extent it's going to remain shut and it's going to be one of our bargaining chips. And I think that in itself is a really important one to look at. And it's that I've been surprised at how the oil price.
But the problem with that statement was, and genuinely minutes later, I think the Iranian UN envoy came out and said, "No, we're going to let oil go through the strait." So it was very much like, well, hang on, what the hell are you doing? And I've been talking to a few people, and for donkey's years, the separations of powers with Iran have made things very complicated. For years, you'll get one comment or one source from, like, say, the military side that will say one thing, and you'll get one side from the clerics will say another thing, and like the top cleric will say, and then another one from the parliamentary committee or whatever they are will say another thing. So you've always had a problem with Iran where you're like, well, are they actually talking to each other internally? And that was when they were all alive. And now, like, basically the top ladder or the top rung of all of them being wiped out. So it does feel like there's just many heads to this snake at the moment. And it's getting a bit silly. And then obviously that's one thing, like, who do you trust, or who actually, who do you listen to? But then on the other side of the pond, you've got the energy secretary this week tweeting that the US have just escorted a tanker through. Crude dumps, I can't remember what, 20 odd bucks or even more. Then he deleted the tweet and crude rallies 20 odd bucks. And it's like, and this is why it's so impossible, to try and be trading the news on this, in my opinion. It's just ripe for just getting your ass, like, handed to you and top and tailed all over the show.
For sure. And obviously some of the headlines we've seen on some of the large sort of macro hedge funds is that they've had a pretty tricky stinker, absolute
stinker.
It's like Tottenham's goalkeeper.
Oh my God!
They're just having a bad time of it, and I think it's very true. And I think that when you look at oil, though, it's been volatile this week, especially as well. But I feel that the considerations around oil, like with the 30-day waiver, like with the G7 talking about freeing up some reserves, all this type of chatter, is that I'm not going to say the top is in for oil. That's a very bold statement.
Yeah,
but all I'm saying is that with the strait as it is at the moment, aka they're trying to remove mining vessels, ships are being struck, all this type of thing, is that if that is peak pessimism, peak whatever you call it, worst case scenario, which I think 2 weeks ago if we were talking, we would have said, what's the worst case scenario for oil? The strait gets closed, they bomb tankers. We're kind of at that worst case scenario now, where they've even said, Tehran said, we're going to weaponize the strait. So if that's where we are, and we're sitting sub $100 a barrel, I'm tempted to basically say that we may have seen the top on oil, especially if headlines like Russian come through.
Look, I can definitely understand the logic, but would I be looking for a short? No. But you can make a very, very strong case for that. Things as well, like concessions that Iranians making, like they're trying to let, the thing is as well, tankers are getting through. So when you see these marine traffic radar things where it's like no trackers have gone through, they're just turning their trackers off. We are seeing a couple of ships go through, and it's very easy to forget that. It sounds like we're getting very close to either US escorts or even French escorts. Maybe the UK are going to send their one remaining narrow boat or whatever. Captain Pugwash on the front. But also and Iranians this week have also said they're going to make concessions for Indian tankers, because they need the money, right? Especially at the moment, because there's going to be a lot of rebuilding that needs to be done. Now, call me cynical, but if I know that India are allowed to put tankers through, and I was a Greek shipping magnate, this is when the Greek shipping magnates come into their own, I'd be labeling every ship as an Indian cruise, as an Indian destination. I know I've heard some stories already coming out of genuinely the Greek shipping magnate kind of oil tanker owners and stuff, and a couple of the Scandi guys, they are having it off on the shipping rates, etc. But no, I can completely get your point. Again, it's a horrible thing to say, I think the top's in, because we have no idea what's going to happen. But as things stand right now, which is all we can base it on, we can't predict the future. I think you could be right. I think, yeah, it does feel like that. But one thing as well, sticking with oil and this situation, Trump, again, he's not exactly, as I said this morning to Michael, like we all know, anyone that knows me, including you, I've got ADHD seeping out of every pore. Now, Trump, ADHD, he makes me look normal. Yeah, because yesterday, the day before, don't me. But yesterday, I think it was like, oil prices are going to come down very soon. Then 10 minutes later, actually, high oil prices are really good for the USA. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then 10 minutes later, we don't actually care where oil prices are. I'm like, come on, man, give me a break.
I agree. It's the optics, and also we come into this as we've got a very quick little tangent of the age of social media, AI, fake, not fake tweets, but fake images.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you'll have seen on from your
Oh my God, yeah.
like being able to interpret what is going on over in the Middle East right now.
Yeah.
That age of information is very difficult to accurately trade headlines. And
No,
this is from Trump's
this is the thing.
account.
It's almost impossible at the moment to be trading the headlines. Yeah, but the problem is, as a retail trader or someone that hasn't done it before, you will see a huge move on the chart. You will look back and say, "Oh, that was because of this news or whatever." Therefore, trading headlines is free money. I promise you, it's not that easy.
Agreed. And actually, one last one on the Middle East before we move on is I spoke to a friend of mine this morning who moved to Dubai about 3 or 4 years ago. And interestingly, he basically flew out yesterday on a commercial flight, Emirates, to France. And he said that it's illegal in Dubai to be posting on social media and on anywhere about this, which I didn't actually realize. But he was saying from him on the ground, the reason he left was because his apartment block got hit by a stray drone, which is absolutely crazy. And he said, actually, from his view on the ground, there is more damage in Dubai than he says the world is aware of.
There was a thing in the papers 2 days ago, like some 60-year-old British tourist.
Yes,
got
in prison.
Yeah, because he posted a video. And it makes it does make a mockery of there's a few people in the UK that left recently because of social media clampdowns and stuff like that to go to Dubai because it's the freest country in the Middle East, and you're like, oh, okay, Stuart.
That's the yellow.
I mean, look, just in case anyone from the Dubai Tourist Board is listening, and I eventually go over to Dubai, I love it over there.
Yeah, it's a great place.
Great place. Great.
Yeah.
Safe as Aldi.
Well, switching lanes, not massively actually, on this though, is coming close to home, the UK. The data this morning, don't saw it. UK failed to grow in January, particularly like service sector. Yeah, perpetually. So it was disappointing because it was meant to grow by 0.2%. December grew by 0.1%, and obviously January effectively turned out flat. And the issue we have, which we did actually speak about last week, which is where I'm still sitting slightly out of consensus, is that markets are pricing, when I last checked, I think it's about 18 basis points of hikes from the Bank of England through to year end.
Yeah.
Whereas if we rewind even a month, it was pricing 2 full cuts.
Yeah.
And I was pushing for more.
Yeah.
Now my thinking is that the UK economy is shown today isn't growing. Yes, we might have the inflationary pressures coming through further down the line, granted, but we are starting from a relatively low base, which certainly helps out. And I think the concept of the Bank of England hiking rates this year, given the state of the economy, is never going to happen in a million years.
Well, yeah.
And what do you think?
I make you right, 100%. Like, the thing is, if it wasn't for this uncertainty, and if it wasn't for all this war and this, the fear of energy inflation going through the roof in the coming months, which will obviously then feed through into the data in a few months after that, if it wasn't for that, they'd be cutting already, right? They'd be cutting at this next meeting, in my opinion, especially after this data. They are very concerned about the state of the deteriorating economy, rightly so, even though the Labour Party claim that they're cutting because it's a good thing. Work that one out if you can, please. Answers on the postcard. But I think the thing that's holding them back is this perceived scare that could be coming down the pipe via the inflation. But as you said, and Michael Brown actually did a bit of digging on this about the last time there was an BOE meeting around an energy scale, around when something, I can't remember what year it was, 2022 maybe. And they basically said at the time, we're going to look through the data because we believe it will be just a small hump. and fingers crossed, it will be a small hump. And this is the problem, right? We're pricing. It feels to me like the stirs are pricing that we could get prolonged inflation, like a prolonged increase in inflation on the back of this energy shock, which obviously then feeds through into everything else, right? Because energy feeds everything. But
Mm.
if it is just a small hiccup, that all this new pricing is going to have to be unwound again. So I do
Mm.
think we've overshot a little bit. I think you're still calling for at least a cut this year, right?
Yeah, 100%. I just really struggle to see. I mean, the heavy caveat
Yeah,
is
this is the thing. We've got everything everything we say is like, but
it's just a prolonged and sustained heightened energy
yeah,
prices. That's the caveat.
yeah,
But it's like, if, I mean, we forget it has, I mean, it's technically only been 2 weeks. It's kind of like, if
this
we
is
do see
it.
this resolved in, let's say, another 2 weeks,
It's
then a
it'll barely
month
register.
is a blip. Yeah,
Yeah,
it is a blip. Because the thing is, even though you see those immediate pass through effects, i.e., like at the pumps, is the second order effects which come through on like wage pressure demands or
yeah.
elements like
And
that.
even things like fertilizers then come into the food
Yes.
inflation. Yeah, but this is we need, like you said, we need prolonged heightened prices. Now,
Yeah.
yes, prices are high now, but hopefully, obviously, because no one likes war, but there is a chance. I'm not saying it's a big chance, but I'm just saying there is a possibility that this is all over in a week's time.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. So, I mean, I think I did actually read somewhere that, probably like 2 to 3 months of elevated oil prices, what you start to need to
That's
see
what you
it,
need, right? Yeah,
start to come through.
yeah,
So I think we adjusted that if that's the case. But I mean, yeah, certainly I think the Bank of England pricing is pretty rich.
yeah.
Um,
The thing is, well, we always see in times of stress, we always see markets overshoot, right? And it does feel like this is overshot a little bit.
yes, agreed.
But I think you
So
make
yeah, I think let's see where we go on the
Yeah,
on the
I think
UK side of
just
things.
you did make a very well, just in passing, I think you made a very good observation, which this has only been going on for 2 weeks. Yes, if you're sitting in front of your screens, it feels like it's been going on for years already because it's been a hell of a long couple of weeks, but it is only day 14 in the Thunderdome. So,
The Thunder.
that's what it feels like. Mad Max vibes in Dubai right now. Oh, Dubai, we
Yeah.
love you. We love you.
Yeah, so I think the UK is an interesting one. Then two of the other stories that I think didn't get traction, given this was the Middle East focusing on. One was Donny has been back at it with his tariff. I'm sorry, we can't talk tariffs. There was the initiation under Section 301 of the
Oh, yeah, that one.
1974 Trade Act. That
Oh,
one,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
One
yeah.
of my favorites.
Yeah. Bedtime reading. Unfair trade practices, because Trump sort of stopgap tariffs at the minute go through to the end of July, and obviously they need to basically get something else given
Yeah,
the recent Supreme Court ruling. And so 16 nations have been targeted from this, or the EU, China, Japan, etc., etc. And yeah, essentially it's like keep an eye on this, whatever you want to call it, rules or policy initiative that can effectively replace the tariffs as they are.
yeah.
But I was surprised at how little reaction that has got this week. Yeah. Any thoughts?
But this is the problem, right? It's like there's so many stories that I'm looking at and thinking, well, look at the dollar yen. Dollar yen is like
Mm.
screamed at and coming to the same levels we were having the rate checks before. I've hardly seen one person mention dollar yen this week. And, we've had some, we're having significant data, but it's, but no one gives a shit. No one gives a shit what's happening at all. It's everyone's, and you can't because everyone's so reliant on the next tweet. And it's definitely gone, tweets are now moving markets more than fundamentals, and the fundamentals are moving market. Anyone trading technicals, anyone trying to trade technical analysis only in these markets, fuck me, God, good luck to
Mm.
you. But because that is the last thing that's mattering right now.
Agreed. And then the last one was private credit, which again is something
Yes,
that has dominated the headlines
but
this year, but has massively gone under the
yeah,
radar.
well, there's been some big
Yeah.
stories this week, right? Hello, you there? Has he got a phone call?
Oh, sorry.
Hello?
Yeah. I'm back. I had a phone call and it cut off the
Okay.
thingy.
Yeah, no. So
Anyway.
private credit. There's been some big stories about that this week that have completely just been sidelined.
Yeah, I don't know which one you were thinking of. The one I thought was JP Morgan.
Yes.
Were basically sort of written what do I say, the collateral value of their private credit fund clients, they've basically written down, which, essentially shows that they won't lend as much based on the value of the collateral, which is effectively a way of writing down what they think those assets are worth, which is pretty significant.
Yeah. No, exactly that. And again, who was it? Was it Diamond that said last year, like, you never just get one cockroach, and that is exactly the vibe we're getting.
For sure. And the fact that it's spreading now much more, because, obviously Blue Owl has been the poster child in the worst way.
I know someone that shorted that. Who was that?
Still in it.
Right.
Still in it.
Really, real handsome bastard.
Yeah, I know. Just a finger on the pulse. Although, in fairness, the Blue Owl shorts help me out massively, but my Bank of England trade's gone absolutely horribly against me.
We don't talk about the losers.
Don't talk about that. It's like,
that's in the investment drawer tucked away at the back.
Yeah, pricing will come back. They will not hide this year. Yeah, got a bit smashed on that one this week, but who hasn't? But it's passed beyond Blue Owl now. Like yesterday, Blackstone closed 4% lower.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
KKR down 3.6%, Apollo down 4.4%. So it's like we're starting to see this spread away from what you might call more sort of niche operators to the tier one heavyweights. And as with a lot of things in the markets, is that you sell the rumor by the fact, and it's like you can argue some of this stuff is still rumors, but it's like investors just don't want to be there, and so you can almost find yourself in a bank run, in inverted commas, even when there's nothing material there, but simply because of people's perception.
No, exactly that. Exactly. And again, it's a classic case of this would be all we would be talking about any other time.
Yeah. So I think definitely private credit's one to keep an eye out on. I think Trump's the new style of tariffs, I think, is an interesting one to keep an eye on. And essentially on the oil front, basically what measures either ease the supply or basically how much worse can it get?
So I've got to pose a question to you. Bearing in mind, like, the kind of what you're saying about your opinion about maybe this is over sooner rather than later, etc. Are you still firmly in equities? I mean, I'm referring to equities here. Are you still firmly buy the dips when you can get them?
Yeah, I mean, because I think I saw a great chart from Barclays earlier on where it was charting like the sort of different sigma moves of different assets since the conflict began.
Yeah.
And obviously you've got oil on one end of the spectrum, which is seeing like something's like 9 sigma move, which is crazy. But literally on the other end of the scale, you had like gold, which is barely shifted. And the other ones that you look at was like, the S&P. And it's like, if you do look at like the S&P, like, I mean, I'm pulling up here now, it's like really relative to where we are from. I mean, put it this way, like, I mean, we started the year, where was it, like 68.50 ish, and now we're at like futures are 67 on the nose, call it. So it's like, you know what I mean, like, and the volatility within that, like intraday we've seen it choppy, but open and close, like, we're not. Large cap equities haven't really shifted in the US. So I don't really see US equities as a place to be either overweight or underweight on this situation. I think, it's to do more sensitive assets. I mean, the nice one that I was looking at is that on oil, without trying to play it outright, but you can actually hedge. Well, I say hedge. You can put safer-ish positions on like put spreads, where basically you're protected from, if volatility comes off, which at some point it will, you're not exposed by having a single leg. You've got two, so you're insulated from that.
And that's a great point as well. It's like, because options, where the vol is so high, you could be right in everything, but if vol collapses, you're still going to do your ass.
Yeah. And so I think the nice for expressions on from my view, if oil is topped, is you put on some like 3-month put spreads, which can have quite nice payoffs, and you sort of leave it from there. So lovely. Well, those were the main things I wanted to run through.
Perfect.
Jesse's probably still stuck in the toilet. A little chef.
I'm glad you got there first, because I was going to go far worse than that. Well, Jesse, when you do listen to this, lube up. But Alex, absolute pleasure to talk to you as always, my dear friend. We do need to meet up for a drink. It's been a couple of weeks since I've watched you down a vodka martini. in one. But absolute pleasure, my friend. Listeners, thank you so much as always. We hope we've added a bit of value and put a smile on your face today. Have a fantastic weekend.